What's up, gamers? Welcome back to coverage of the Modern 20K at MXP LA. My name's Hayu. I'm here with Jason, and we are sponsored by Heavy Play and TVU Network, bringing you coverage of today's event down in LA, hosted by Laughing Dragon. And Jason, for our viewers out there, for the audience, and for you, I have a treat courtesy of the production team, and that treat is no Nadu in this main feature match.
And the bird.
What we do have though is energy. It's going to be a Mardu energy mirror. So we have Anthony Trevino up against Ariel Kimmick. Both of these players are 5 and 1. And Jason, tell us a little bit about these two decks.
Well, these two decks are basically the same deck. Lots of energy up in this matchup. Mardu energy, utilizing, again, all of those red and white strong MH3 cards we've been seeing. Ocelot Pride, Guide of Souls, Ajani, Amped Raptor, Flays, just up the curve, all amazing Boros creatures. As well as a somewhat black splash, well, not exactly a splash, but like definitely a less primary color than red and white for Thoughtseize Fatal Push as good interaction, Orcus Bowmasters as as another just premier 2-drop creature in the format, and 2 copies each of Mob Nixless. Mob Nixless's Adversary. This is the way that the primary way that both decks are using in order to flip their Ajanis, sacrificing 2/1 cats in order to flip Ajani, and also notably providing a red permanent at the same time.
Pretty interesting stuff here. And, you know, these two lists, as you said, pretty similar, but we do have Ariel, who, by the way, is on the left side of your screen, and Anthony is on the right. We will get that fixed. That will be switched around to be corrected in just a few minutes' time. But Ariel list has 1 copy of Chthonian Nightmare, no copies of Goblin Bombardment, and for Trevino it's the other way around. Anthony has brought the 2 copies of Bombardment and no Chthonian Nightmare, so just a little bit of a difference there in the kind of enchantment slot, but otherwise these two decks both trying to do the same thing. And when that's happening, Jason, like, what are we looking out for to get a player ahead?
Both of these decks are, fundamentally somewhat in the like aggro mid-range space, right? Both are trying to pressure the opponent's life total, but also like just play good cards. These just strong rate MH3 cards that just flood the board pretty quickly. So being on the play is going to be important, which will be nice for Anthony, who is on the right. And but at the same time, you really want those 2-for-1s, because like in this matchup, there isn't really like all the interaction is 1-for-1, right? It's efficient, yes, but like Thoughtseize, Galvanic Discharge, Fatal Push, Static Prison, all of these are just 1-for-1s, like we saw here, right? Like Anthony played Guide of Souls, Ariel galved it, and Ariel is left with 1 energy, but like not any extra cards, right? So really you want to watch out for those cards like Ajani, which leave 2 cards on the battlefield, or Amped Raptor, again, like a 2/1 plus another card. And I think especially Flage, which like there isn't that much removal for Flage. Like you can revolt a Fatal Push, but that puts it right back in the graveyard to be escaped again. You can theoretically discharge it with 6 energy, but that's kind of hard. And there's 2 copies of Static Prison each that can permanently answer it. But that's going to be a very important card in the matchup, just repeatedly removing your opponent's stuff.
All right, and speaking of Static Prison, Anthony does have it for the Guide of Souls Ocelot Pride combo that Ariel managed to assemble on his turn number 2. Those names are the wrong way around. I apologize, but we do have Anthony with the Ocelot Pride and the cat token that was made in the end step thanks to the life gain from the Guide of Souls. Static Prison, though, is going to do a good job of answering the 1-drop, and Ariel has an Ocelot Pride of his own. And meanwhile, let's find out what Anthony has going on here, because it is looking like this is a mirror match, like it's looking pretty mirror-y so far.
Yeah.
What does Anthony have? I see a Flage in hand for Ariel. Oh, is that another guide?
Yeah, another guide helps get this helps get the Ocelot Pride ball rolling without having to attack into the other mirroring Ocelot Pride, which would trade and therefore prevent the end step trigger. So I don't know if
But
Ariel
there's no
has a second creature.
right. Well,
Looks like they're trying to figure out life totals right now.
right, because I think Anthony took damage from that using that silent clearing to tap her mana, and then they're kind of trying to figure out the fetch lands, the shot clans, what happened.
I
There
think
was some
17 is
life game from the guide.
I think 17 is no, I think Ariel should be at 18. Theoretically. Gained 2 from Ocelot Pride plus Cat Token entering last turn with the
Yeah.
guide, and then took 4 damage off of lands. So it's possible that Ariel missed a trigger. I'm sure they figured it out.
All right. Well, regardless of what's happening, here's the Guide of Souls putting the counters on Ocelot Pride. That's coming in. That's definitely going to be gaining 3 life. End step, make a cat. And yeah, this it just seems like things are kind of already snowballing out of control. And we're only on turn number 3 for Anthony. And back over now to Ariel. I mean, just there's a Flage in hand. I think there's an Amped Raptor. But it just seems like there was just one too many one drop for Ariel to deal with.
But I think here the Flage will actually do a pretty nice job of cleaning up, right? Because like this 3/3 Ocelot Pride in the air is pretty threatening, but it is a 3/3. It does die to Flage, and the fact that Ariel, like even with all of this forward pressure, didn't commit more threats, kind of is
Mm.
telegraphing, or sorry, Anthony on the right is kind of telegraphing that maybe he doesn't have another threat, or maybe his threat is like flashing in a Bowmaster, which isn't
Mm.
which like is good, but isn't going to snowball quite nearly as much, right? So this Flage
Right.
might be able to take over the game, and this is what I meant by like Flage being such a mirror breaker. Yeah, we see here
Right.
Anthony has removal, but no additional threats.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going back over to Anthony's turn. I mean, does have the 3 energy to do some Guide of Souls action if he so chooses, but otherwise, it's just going to be sending in the team. All right. Guide of Souls is going to be flung into the air. Anthony used that Galvanic, has 3 mana. Oh, and there he is, Mob Nixler's coming down. Gonna be making, gonna be using the casualty, making a token copy of himself. And let's see how this is going. Anthony going up, making the devil. Oh, and the devil gives you energy. Oh my goodness.
It looks like one downtick and one uptick.
Yeah, that's pretty classic
I
Obnix.
I don't know if the numbers are quite right on those. I think they should be at 1 and 3 instead of 2 and 2, but I might
I
be.
think he went up with the small one, right? Because he sacked the 1/1 to make
Oh, he
the
sacked a 1/1. Oh, I thought.
yeah,
Okay, I thought he sacked a
yeah.
2/1 for some reason.
Ah,
Right.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and here comes Flage again, and
Okay.
we'll start seeing it perhaps taking over a bit, killing one of these mob Nixoluses. And of course, there's still the Guide of Souls, but a 6/6 is pretty big.
Yeah, I and Ariel the 24 life, I mean, Flage is just gonna keep gaining. Yeah, let's just make sure we are still keeping track of the silent clearing. And I mean, what can Anti do? It needs to find a static prison maybe for this Flage?
Yeah, I'm still hung up a bit on this Ob Nixilis. I think it should be at 1 instead of 2, or like from the last turn, because the devil is a -2 and it does come in at 3. I just checked. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. Well, we can't do anything about it. The players, if they catch it later, we will update everyone. But as things are, Obnixus has the 2 on it. Maybe both went. No, you're right. It's a -2. It has to go. It comes in at 3. There's just not really a way for it to end up at 2. I think.
yeah, there's no
Okay.
-1.
Um. All right. So, oh, by the way, my friends, the life total are also switched up. So we're gonna like Anthony is at 23, Ariel is at 12, and we're just gonna have to remember that it will be fixed for the next game, but we the life totals are the other way around just for this game number one, and we're gonna see Anthony now at 20, sitting at 23 life, using the Obnixilis. Still thinking about what to do. I don't think we have access necessarily to Anthony's hand right now.
I assume there's no removal for this Flage, otherwise it would have just like instantly been used. And presumably like Ariel's life total is under threat for sure from this Guide of Souls. But if he finds a way to get rid of the Guide of Souls, then this Flage should be able to clean up.
Okay, well, and here's Ocelot. So Anthony, I think, because the Obnix made the devil, right, which gains the life from life souls, and so there is going to be an Ocelot Pride trigger in the end step. It's going to gain more life from the Guide of Souls, more energy. Ariel kind of sat back a little bit, not quite sure that is trying to just lean on this one Flage. There's a lot of flying threats, Jason.
Yeah, I mean that's what Guide of Souls does, right? Repeatedly present these flying threats. And if Ariel doesn't have a way to answer that, which it's not obvious that he does, that is going to be a huge problem. And also, it looks like Ariel just ran out of energy. And so this other static prison holding back the other Guide of Souls might not be long for this world.
Yeah, that has been draining away at the energy for pretty much the entire time, right? That static prison came down on like turn 2 or 3 for Ariel. And Ariel has access to an amped raptor, can use that to go digging. Oh, there's a surveil. Oh, and that's an Obnix on top, but that doesn't help Ariel because he used that last energy.
Yeah, I suspect that Ariel is really looking for a fatal push. Okay, Thoughtseize close, same mana cost.
Yeah,
But...
Jason, you need to focus your psychic abilities a little bit better. you got to the 1 mana flax card, but it wasn't the one that Ariel needed. So here comes Flage, takes down the Ocelot Pride. Ariel goes up to 6. Anthony's gonna just take the damage, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, things are looking pretty lethal. Especially if you can get a third creature into the air. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the 6 was before or after Flage gained life, but it's pretty wide board, pretty big threats that this Guide of Souls is presenting, and the devils themselves also represent like another more points of damage when they die. And yeah, it looks like that's the game.
Right. Yes. All right. So Ariel is gonna go a game down. Anthony taking the first game in this Mardu energy mirror, really just getting out on board, had more 1-drops. Ariel managed to answer that first Guide of Souls, but ultimately the combo of Ocelot Pride and second Guide of Souls getting Anthony there in the first game. So both of these players are 5-1. It is a win in for tomorrow. A win here means that they are locking up coming back to play tomorrow morning, Jason.
Indeed. Though even the loss is not too bad because they have one more chance of the winning in next round if they lose here.
Right. All right. So Ariel is going to the sideboard. Let's have a look together at what Ariel has. So 4 copies of Obsidian Charmer, 3 copies of Rakdos Charm, 2 Surgical, 2 Harsh Mentor, 2 One Ring, 1 Wear Tear. What do you like here for the mirror?
That surgical is at least a consideration. Specifically, like I said, Flage is pretty important. It didn't quite get the job done in that game, but I think like most of that was a factor of Ariel, the rest of Ariel's hand not being amazing.
Mm,
So I could definitely see them bringing in surgical, even though it's not amazing against anything else in the deck, right? And it has some awkwardnesses. It's not a great hit off of Raptor usually. It can just sit dead in the hand, which is really bad in a mid-range mirror, but it takes care of one of the more important threats.
right.
Otherwise, I don't think there's too much. Like Rakdos Charm is completely for Nadu. Obsidian Charma is for Tron stuff. Harsh Mentor for Nadu. Maybe the One Ring. I could see being
Mm,
brought in as just like going bigger in mid-range matchups is generally good, but it also is a bit expensive. And like we saw that game, like things can get out of hand pretty quickly.
right.
So really, I think we're mostly just playing, running it back. Not too many other impact changes.
By the way, Anthony has 3 Sun Cleanser in the board.
Now that is a mirror breaker.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting to think about, like, what players decided to bring and didn't bring. I mean, no quarter calling for Anthony to go and find it, but 3 copies in the site. Like, he was ready for energy.
Yeah, doesn't shut off literally everything uh, in the Mardu energy deck, but definitely worth bringing in. Shuts off um, the Guide of Souls that was so impactful in game one. Shuts off 2-for-1s from the Amped Raptor. Some
Mm.
of the removal spells with Galvanic Discharge, and to some extent Static Prison. You can still play the Static Prison and get rid of the get rid of the Sun Cleanser and stack the triggers so that you get the 2 energy after getting rid of the Sun Cleanser. But
Gotcha.
still going to be pretty impactful when it comes down.
So it looks like Ariel's keeping this 7. Looks pretty nice. 2 lands, 2 Ocelot Prize, Bowmasters, and Raptor, and Ob Nix as well. So that, oh, I think actually, that's an Ajani that's flipped, not an Ob Nix. My apologies. But that's a really sweet one for Ariel with just a handful of threats.
Yeah, and especially when you're on the play, those cheap threats are what you want. Ocelot Prides to start really snowballing and force your opponent onto the back foot. Was there any removal in that hand? Because that's the one
Just,
concern.
yeah, just the Bowmasters.
Yeah, so you can theoretically then attack and turn 2 into, like, you can attack your Ocelot Pride into a Guide of Souls with no fear because of your Bowmasters. But
Mm.
you might run into trouble if Anthony starts building a better board somehow on the draw.
So Anthony is going to keep the 6. Just drew an Ajani. I think we saw some nice lands, Flage, and Bowmasters of his own, but we'll find out with you what the rest of the hand that he found. The on the draw here goes fetching. I mean, this suggests he has the 1-drop, right? I didn't quite see what it was though.
I think there may have been a Guide of Souls. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see.
All right.
And there it is.
Yeah, you're right. It is the Guide of Souls. But Ariel has the second land, chucks that in, and okay, discharge.
Not
Just
even going to mess with the Bowmasters play.
I was 100% expecting the Bowmasters, like the debate, but this is way better. Ariel gets to use the second mana to get Ocelot Pride down, start making cats. 6 permanents already, and next turn, I mean, I think we're very much on board for copying tokens, potentially. What happens if you copy the amass token?
The amass token. Oh, from you get a 0/0 definitely, and it immediately dies due to state-based actions. You would
Oh,
gain a
okay.
life and an energy if you had Guide of Souls in play, but
Okay.
not very useful otherwise.
All right. I was like, do you get a second? Like, how does that even? But no,
So,
thank
so
you.
the real good one is copying your Mob Nix token, because that is a
Oh,
token that entered the battlefield that turn. So theoretically, if Ariel casualties a Mob Nix and then goes to end step and has a City's Blessing Ocelot Pride trigger, he will get additional copies of Mob Next, which will
That's
be enter at the same loyalty as the original copy, whatever
that's
that
amazing.
value of X was.
Oh, look at this. Bowmasters takes care of one Ocelot Pride. It's gonna make an amass token. I mean, this is ideal for Anthony, right? But Ariel kind of just shrugs it off.
I mean, your opponent putting two 1/1s in play isn't that scary when you yourself have another Bowmasters of your own. It looks like Anthony did not go for the double block on Ocelot Pride, a very easily blown out double block.
I think that is very fair. And we're gonna see Ant Raptor come down. 3 energy available. Finds Fatal. Is that Fatal Push?
I don't recognize the art, but it looks like it must be.
All right, and yeah, I think it's a universe is beyond Fatal Push. It's gonna take care of both. Best cat token of the day award goes to Ariel Kim. I don't know if Ariel cares that much about the Sun Cleanser.
It's definitely
Jason.
like it's definitely a good card in the matchup, but there are points where it doesn't actually do very much. Like certainly it doesn't do anything against Ob Nixilis, which I think was in Ariel's hand. And there isn't even a Guide of Souls in play to annoy either. But it's a 1/4.
That's true.
Sure blocks these 1 toughness first strikers.
That's true. Yeah, maybe hoping to put a little stop to the life gain here. Stop that Ocelot Pride from getting in. It does even blocks the Amped Raptor pretty well. That's
You
a
could even
galvanic.
claim it dominates the battlefield right now.
You know, you could. That's a legal thing for you to say. And Ariel has 2 mana, and it's gonna be a Johnny this time,
Right, it was a
making
Johnny,
another
not Mob Next.
yeah, makes another 2/1. Again, something that gets dominated by the Sun Cleanser.
But the cats are coming in. Very, very unblockable with this Ajani on board.
Yeah, like I love that. Ajani is just so sweet. I mean, it's so ridiculous, but it's so sweet. Yeah, and Anthony really can't do anything, right, about the cats because the Ajani flipping is just so close to lethal.
Yeah. You have the red permanent with the Amped Raptor in play, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 damage anywhere. Anthony's at 7. Yeah, you can't let that Johnny flip.
Right? And Anthony's at 7? Yeah. That's not happening.
Yeah,
He has
that's the true
Elegant
power
Power.
of a Johnny. It just makes all your cats unblockable. It might not say that text, but it does say that text.
It does say that text.
Honestly, I'm surprised that the Ocelot Pride didn't attack, because that too is a cat. I guess maybe that's too risky into a removal spell.
Yeah. I mean, there's just I think Ariel just is just so far ahead, right? Like, there's not really any point.
That's completely fair.
And let's see what Anthony finds. Surveil, leave that on top. What was it that Anthony left on top in this game at number 2? Remember, Anthony did win the first game, just has to win this game to lock up his berth in tomorrow's Swiss. Ariel still has a little ways to go, and here's Guide of Souls plus Ajani plus the cat that Ajani makes. So Anthony on the way back up with the life and the energy.
That's a pretty good turn, but I still don't know if Anthony is allowed to block these cats.
Right. Ariel has what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 power in cats.
Yeah, and especially okay, I guess not tapped out. And Anthony did just play a mountain, so is representing a potential galvanic discharge, though it
Okay.
would seem there wasn't any last turn.
Okay. Ariel fetches. I have to assume that was an end step fetch and not an upkeep fetch.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it would be an upkeep fetch. The lands are untapped at this point. Maybe it was an upkeep fetch. Maybe he just forgot about the fetch and then remembered on his upkeep. Better late than never.
But, yeah, but you're allowed to go back for that now. No, because the game state didn't change. I believe that nowadays you're allowed to go back for that. I don't quote me on that. Um, but anyway, regardless, it's Ariel's turn. He has 3 mana available to him. Here come oh, was that a Bowmasters? Yeah,
Oh,
that seemed
right,
like
the
a Bowmasters.
Bowmasters. Well, the Bowmasters can force the Ajani flip now. So
Oh, okay, alright. Yeah, that's gonna be yeah. I mean, that's enough. Is it enough?
yeah, it looks like it. It looks like
I
there's 9 creatures. Oh, and chat
yeah.
points out the reason why the fetch was on upkeep was to not tap out of Bowmasters, because if Anthony had a removal spell to point at the Ajani, Bowmasters could come down in response.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Thanks, chat. Appreciate the help. Ariel playing very tightly, knows exactly, where the weak spots are. Didn't leave himself shields down. So love to see that here in the feature match area. Of course, that is what we expect from the players who are doing well today, making these runs at 5-1. And we're going to game 3, Jason.
Game 3, Anthony back on the play. That's a pretty good place to be, especially with 3 Sun Cleansers as well.
Yeah, definitely is gonna want to get one of those down. But I mean, he did get one down that game, but it didn't really help him too much against what Ariel was doing.
Yeah, it did. The most it did was incentivize a galvanic discharge to go to the graveyard.
It's not nothing. It's not nothing.
Not nothing, definitely not nothing, but not as much as Anthony could have hoped for, certainly.
All right, let's see the players shuffling up. Anthony, just making a little bit of change to the sideboard. Do you like changing things up? Play and draw. There is a fatal push in his sideboard. A couple of
Yeah,
copies of surgical.
I expect that like Fatal Push gets better on the draw, worse on the play. Um, I mean, in Anthony's sideboard, I guess I'd be like more inclined to bring in surgical on the draw, where like you don't necessarily have the pressure to pressure a Flage as well, and you also
Hmm.
have the extra cards in order to fight Flage with. But I still would need to like experience the matchup more myself before I was able to say for sure.
All right. All right. So looks like we are about to get underway here for the deciding game in round number 7 between Ariel Kimmig and Anthony Trevino here at MXP LA. And that's 2 copies of the One Ring, 1 copy of Wear and Tear for Ariel, as well as a static present. Bit of a weird one, this.
Here's a really interesting thing to see brought in, because like it really doesn't have that many targets. Isn't it just I guess it's
Is it
not
just a
open deckless.
bombardment?
Yeah, it's possible that Ariel thinks that Anthony's deck has more enchantments than it truthfully has, but it's just 2 bombardment, 2 static prison. Um, Maybe Ariel suspects like full 4 bombardment.
Hmm.
Uh, it doesn't kill the Wandering either, so
Right. I think you're right. I think it's got to just be for the bombardment. Maybe doesn't want to get behind against that. And speaking of behind, Anthony on turn 1 with the Guide of Souls. And already it just feels a little bit like this hand was kind of awkward for Ariel.
yeah, the Wandering is definitely powerful at like letting you play the long game, but you also kind of need to be able to play the short game to get to that long game.
Right. And wow. Anthony, let's see whether Anthony has another threat coming down. Because Ariel is able to deal with the first one.
Nothing now, though. Shocking in the land, probably a Bowmasters.
Yeah. Shock pass in this matchup. Oh, I think Ariel maybe a little sniff of the the Bowmasters, which, by the way, is also a nightmare if you can't deal with it and you have One Ring.
Yeah, lines up pretty well against the 2 One Rings in Ariel's hand.
All right, Anthony. Just seems like the lineup of Anthony's hand against Ariel's hand is just, just does not. It's not. It's all going one way. It's one way traffic here.
Yeah, and the Static Prison also, I don't know if Ariel has more energy cards in hand. So, I mean, it's a powerful card getting rid of anything for 1 mana, but it does have a time limit, it seems.
Right.
Oh, and apparently Anthony also bringing in Wear Tear, but this side has been rewarded by this Wear Tear,
Oh
whereas
my
there's no sign of
goodness.
artifacts or enchantments on Anthony's side.
Oh my goodness. Guide of Souls into Ajani, gain 1 life plus 1 energy. Make Cat gain 1 life plus 1 energy. And Ariel, yeah, better get that Surveil land and hope to find something.
Yeah, I don't know what there is to find though. Like, you already have the One Rings in your hand. Those are going to be okay for like a bit of stabilization. But like, I guess
Like,
you just really want to find removal spell into removal spell like over and over again to somehow keep up with this tide of threats.
well, Ariel left it on top. It's a black card. It's a phase of push.
Yeah, okay. 1 threat down, 4 more to go.
Okay. I mean, and then he's gonna be taking what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potentially this turn into One Ring next turn, and Anthony has the Static Prison for the One Ring.
Yeah, the static for the first One Ring is not going to be as impactful with the second One Ring in hand.
Hmm.
It will prevent a couple
Oh,
cards from being drawn.
that's Flage.
Yeah, just straight up lightning helix to the face. We're racing.
And right. And Ariel, by the way, does not have Goblin Bombardment, I believe. I believe it's Anthony that has Goblin Bombardment, and I could be wrong.
Yeah, Ariel
Yeah.
has Chthonian Nightmare instead of Goblin
Right.
Bombardment, and only 1 copy. And it's unclear if it
Right.
stayed in post board. I
Right.
would guess it did, but I'm not completely familiar.
And Ariel's surveilling. I mean, he's really got to find something like maybe a Bowmasters. Would that help? It just
Bowmasters would do a bit, but you can't even kill the 2/1. Like, I think I mostly think you just want like spot removal for this Ajani first, more so than
right,
anything else.
right. He's really thinking about surveil. Yeah. What do you have? How many cards does Anthony have right now?
I don't know. His hand is face down on the table.
I
I
think
think
2.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Is that Rakdos Charm?
Rakdos Charm would be quite a. I mean, I guess that if your reasoning is that you want to kill enchantments, or wait, no, Rakdos Charm kills artifacts, not enchantments. I guess it
Well,
exiles the graveyard for Flage purposes.
I think, or maybe even like the race, right? Like if you're
Yeah, no,
racing, like you can just randomly debate them if they have a ton of Ocelot tokens.
yeah, it does. It does. Like, imagine like your opponent zeroes a Johnny looking to like deal damage equal to their creatures to you, and then you're like, oh, instead I'm gonna deal damage equal to your creatures to you.
That's funny. Like that would be hilarious. But
Speaking of hilarious plays,
oh yeah, I mean this One Ring coming down. Ariel draws the card. Anthony's Bowmasters goes off. There's no valid target on Ariel's side, and Anthony's like, "Yeah, you know what? This cat's gotta go."
yeah, you can always target the orc army itself, and it'll it amasses at the same time as it gets damaged. So or at least a similar enough time that it doesn't die. But Anthony really did not want that cat to stick around any longer. it was its time to get thrown under the bow, so to speak.
I see. Yes, thrown under the bow. Use this target practice, let's say. Um, and also Pride, the follow up after the static prism we were talking about. So one ring number one goes down. Ariel, we know, has a second copy. Can perhaps deploy that. Has Guide of Souls, I believe, Guide of Souls and a bunch of lands and one ring and Wear Tag?
Yeah, the Wear Tear is even technically a third copy of the One Ring, though. If you get the One Ring back from Static Prison, it doesn't re-trigger its effect. It is only a
Right,
card draw engine.
right. Ariel's at 5 life. I mean, this is this the these are desperate times here for Ariel Kimmich. Has to use the one ring, has to keep going, try to
Yep,
find something. That was a white card.
looks like a Guide of
There's
Souls.
I think he had the Guide of Souls already. I think is
Maybe a
it
Flage?
Flade would be great for him, right? Like Flade is what he wants.
It would be good. I still don't know if it would like be enough because as soon as Anthony finds a red permanent, the clock really starts ticking. And there is one sitting in the companion zone, so like even if Anthony is only drawing lands, there's still somewhat of a threat. Now Flage can take out the Ajani, but only if the Ajani doesn't get plussed, if it only if it like continues to zero, right?
Hmm. Right. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. Anthony's gonna go, oh my god, static prison again. Yeah, go up to six energy. Did have to use an energy to maintain the the first static prison. There we go. You called it, Jason. Put that red permanent in hand.
Yeah, it's really funny that it works out that way. Gigantha is red in addition to being green, but
Okay.
Johnny did zero, so could be taken down by a Flage or a Galvanic Discharge. We'll see if Ariel has that option.
I think oh, there is a Flage. There's Flage, Rakdos Charm Guide, and Galvanic. Oh, okay. Ariel has a lot of removal.
Okay, really good start, definitely. There are a lot of fires to put out, but Ariel has a lot of water, so to speak.
So what's the priority to get rid of?
I think the Ajani is definitely the priority because, like, if you don't get rid of the Ajani, the Gigantha comes down with any land off the top, well, any untapped land off the top, and
Right.
starts really pressuring your life total. After that, presumably the Ocelot Pride, or I guess like you could get back if you want to get back a ring, you might want to focus on the Bowmasters.
Right.
There are a decent number of paths through this.
All right, let's see which one Ariel takes here. It's going to be Guide of Souls to begin with. May as well start the life gain train going. And we're going to be able to tell, I think, a little bit by what lands he taps here. Bloodstained Maya, the land drop for turn, has the Flage available. And, you know, Ariel has a lot of cards in the graveyard. If he survives and gets to untap, like, that Flage could definitely come back.
Yeah, we can really see Ariel playing the control role here, which like makes a lot of sense on the draw. Like just really focusing on playing answers and these powerful engine cards like Ring and Flage, rather than like trying to be the aggro when it's pretty hard on the draw. And kind of getting paid off here as long as he survives these next couple turns. Starting to turn the
Okay.
corner.
All right, Ariel goes up to 8 life with the Flage. So I think we're still waiting on figuring out where that Flage, where the damage is going.
Looks
I
undecided. I think we'll should end up at 9 life because start at 5, right? And there's one from the Guide of
Yes,
Souls as well.
there's
So
one from Guide of Souls. Yeah, and 3
possible the
from
trigger's missed.
I mean, he definitely gained the energy from it. Like, I saw him gain the energy, so I would guess he gained the life also.
Yeah, I don't think it's possible to gain the energy without gaining the life. Like I like that's not missing a trigger.
Right.
That's
Oh,
just
and it's
like
cast.
improperly handling the
Mm,
trigger.
right.
So we'll see exactly how that works out.
So Ariel, by the way, has Wear Tear and Galvanic available.
And
Bloodstain
Rakdos
Maya.
Charm,
Okay, all
importantly.
right. You're right. And Renekton's Charm.
Yeah, and specifically important because there is a Flage in Anthony's graveyard, right? I think that's the top card, and I think there's 4 other
Yes.
cards.
Yes. Correct.
So like
I
if
think.
Anthony could go like fetch to try to cast the Flage, and then Ariel could respond with Charm.
Hmm. And does Anthony even have onboard leads? I think not, right? Because Guide of Souls can jump in front of a creature. There's only 5 damage if Guide of Soul chumps.
Yeah, I count 5 if Guide of Souls chumps, 6 if it trades with the 2/1, and then 7 if it tries to get in the way of a 1/1, which then turns off the fetch. But of course, there's
Right.
also the Galvanic Discharge to help a bit with the damage situation.
Right. Yeah, and Ariel's plenty of energy available for the discharge. Also, there is a wear and tear in hand, but I think that would involve Ariel fetching for a shock, which probably doesn't seem ideal at 8 life.
Yeah, already used up his white mana budget.
Yep. And Anthony, thinking about it, it's 2 cards in hand. We know one of them is a Gigantha, right? So it's mystery card plus Gigantha. I guess there is a question here for Anthony of like how much, if he doesn't have anything, what's the right send?
Yeah, I kind of suspect it's either like just the 3/3 and the 2/1 or everything, right? Like if you're going to attack with a 1/1, you might as well send all of them.
Right.
But it's
I think it was
unclear if you do want to attack with with any 1/1s.
right. It's interesting though because Ariel also could block because Anthony doesn't know obviously about the Rakdos charm. Ariel could be tempted into blocking, one of these creatures and then giving Anthony that 5th.
Oh,
This is what's
that's
happening.
a really cool play. So it's just
Okay.
sacrificing both of the static prisons, saying, "Here you go. You can have your rings back. If I'm sacrificing one, I might as well sack the other because Legend rule the ring. The second one doesn't do anything,
Okay. Uh
and then now that gives you enough to escape Flage from the graveyard.
um doesn't Ariel have a Rakdos charm?
Yeah, Ariel could have Rakdos charmed in response to one of the static prisons, like with still one of the static prison triggers on the stack, but like
Right.
after the first static prison trigger resolved, like after Anthony telegraphed, "Hey, I'm going to make this play to try to escape Flage," possible Ariel could have used the Rakdos charm, but chose not to.
Okay. All right. So here comes Flage. Flage is going to be hitting the battlefield. It has a trigger. We're going to see everything except Najani get exiled to that escape cost. And Ariel still has the Galvanic Discharge in hand. It's just taking
Well, he
7?
can't he can't take this. This is 8, right? I'm
Uh,
counting 8
yeah, but
damage.
Ariel's at 9, we think. Well, he's not taking it because regardless, the Galvanic's.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. All right. So we think Ariel is down to 3?
Yeah, it's unclear exactly if the trigger was missed or not, but
Okay.
Ariel's at some fairly low life total, either like it's like somewhere around 3 at the very least. Still
Yeah.
has a lot
It's
of
2
work
or
to
3.
do to
A
try to
lot of work
answer
to do.
Anthony's board.
Okay, so Ariel, let's see, let's take stock here. Ariel has for sure a Flage in the graveyard. Has also a Wear and Tear, also a Rakdos Charm. Flage coming back would kill presumably Ocelot Pride here.
Or Bowmasters if you want to activate the ring.
Hmm.
But theoretically, like on attacks, like even if you kill one thing, I guess you would also gain 3 life. But like the Flage can deal 3 damage to face, and then there's 6 other 1/1s. That's a lot of damage still coming through.
Is a lot of damage. Let's see what Ariel has here. Yeah. Just that's the groaning calculations of someone for whom the maths is not working to their advantage. We've all been there before. I mean, everyone who's played these events, played these competitive tournaments, knows how it feels to be like just slightly too short on something, whether it's life or mana or cards. And Ariel really in a difficult spot here is at 3. So we have the life totals updated, Jason.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, unfortunately, these sideboard cards really not working out for Ariel. The rings were fine. The rings were pretty good, but unfortunately, this Wear Tear and this Rakdos Charm really don't have any targets at this point. Like literally no targets for the Wear Tear that are relevant. Certainly none on the other side. And the best Rakdos Charm can do is it's 7 damage out of 24.
Yeah, it's not great, right? It's not great here for Ariel, but it's gonna at least keep trying. Escape Flage, take care of Bowmasters. Okay, so Ariel wants to draw the cards.
This
May as
makes
well do that
sense.
now.
It seems like Ariel didn't have what he wanted in hand, so maybe it's at the top of his deck.
Is that a discharge?
Maybe. Well, it costs a fetch.
I would
How
think
much
it was.
energy?
Is that
How?
a shocking? No
Well,
basic mountain? Is that Ariel? I mean, yeah,
you
these
have to
decks
do what you
don't.
have to do, certainly.
Yeah, there's no basic mountain. There's 2 basic planes, but no basic mountain for Ariel. So
And Raptor into Fatal Push
fatal
that
push.
can get the Flage, and we're still exactly dead.
Oh, are we dead?
I count
Well,
5
because
creatures.
Ariel's shocked. I mean, so an Ariel, yeah,
Yep.
that's gonna do it. Oh, just slightly, not enough to survive there. And it's Anthony Trevino with Mardu Energy going to be locking up his spot in tomorrow's event, in tomorrow's continuation rather of the Swiss 6-1 now is his record going into the final round. And well fought battle there from Ariel Kimmich. Both players played very well. Ariel played super tight, was very impressed with his play, and he's going to be wanting to get there in the last round of the day, hoping to go from this 5-2 into 6-2 as we look forward to round number 8. So that is it from our main feature match here in round number 7. Let's just check. I'm just going to check in with production. We might have backup magic. We might not, because this one did go on for quite a while. And Jason, was a pretty epic battle.
Like when you hear, this is a mirror between 2 aggressive decks, like some people call these decks aggro decks, you might think like, oh, this is going to be over real quick, right? These decks are both going at each other's throats, trying to finish the game. But when in mirrors, like things just tend to, people are playing the same cards. They trade off. Things go long. There's lots of complex combat math, lots of complex interactions with planeswalkers, and especially a Johnny flipping. So there's a lot to think about, and things can get pretty complex. And this really shows like why Magic is such a great game.
Right. Everyone says Boros NGL, Boros aggro, or whatever, but this deck actually attacks on a lot of different axes, right? It's really not just your 1, 2, 3, and it isn't really even relying on that Goblin Bombardment kind of quote unquote combo finish either. Like, it has card draw, it has Flage, it has all sorts of kind of interesting little interactions going on, Jason.
Yeah, really, it's Boros MH3 or
Boros
Mardu, I guess.
MH.
Yeah, the Boros
Mardu.
is all MH3. The black cards are just good.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to really miss a chance to put Bowmasters and Thoughtseize in a deck, to be honest. And I love to see the innovation here from these players. Okay, my friends, so we are going to bring you more Magic right now from round number 7. We're going to go to game 3 of our backup feature match. And this time we're going to look at 2 players who are already 6-0. So they have already locked it up for tomorrow, but playing for standings, of course, are going to be key to think about getting into top 8, although that is still some ways away. We're going to have Richard Neal against Ben Klumpaitun, and Ben is on Boros Energy, Richard on Bant Nadu. And so this is, really the matchup, right, Jason, of this format.
Yeah, it couldn't run away from Nadu forever. So get to see at least one game again in this round 7.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to have Richard leading off with the tap line. Oh, I think actually maybe Ben led off with the Arid Mesa, fetching now for the Elegant Parlor. And
Yep.
let's see.
Both players surveilling, pretty common to see in Modern these days.
I love it. The surveil line's just so great.
I love surveil lands, except for the fact that like when you fetch for a surveil land, you need to like shuffle your deck for a bunch, and then like it actually matters that like you have an action to take after you shuffle your deck, right? Like you need to then look at the top card of your deck. You can't just say like go. You have to like take that action.
Let me go and find the world's smallest violin. like Ben's gonna pass it back. There wasn't a Johnny, I think, in hand, but opting to keep up removal here, it looks like. And saying, what do you have, Richard? And it's gonna be Urza Saga, and it's going to be Wall of Roots.
Plays pretty well into removal. Obviously, Wall of Roots is a powerful card, but can't and like one you would like to remove, but you can't Galv it right now. You can't Bowmaster it. I wonder what exactly. Oh, is this thinking with the Shuka on the stack?
Yeah, it is thinking with the Shuko on the stack.
Can't let that wall become a 1/5 apparently, or 1/4.
1/4, yeah. Well, okay, Ben has an energy.
Oh,
Ben
I
had the
see.
energy from Aether Hub.
Oh, I forgot. I didn't realize there was an Aether Hub played. I see.
Okay, so Ben takes down the Wall of Roots. Doesn't love it. Doesn't love that, but does it anyway. Has a Johnny potentially as a follow-up. Harsh Mentor in hand out the sideboard for Ben. That's interesting.
Yeah, Harsh Mentor is definitely an interesting card. It really it hampers the ability of Nadu to combo because every time you activate your Shuko or even a fetch land that costs you 2 life, and that 2 life really starts adding up, and at some point you just can't do it anymore. But of course, right now Richard is at 20, and 20 still leaves 9 more activations, 9 cards drawn before you have to stop. So while Harsh Mentor is a hate piece, it's not clean, right? There's still ways
Right.
around it, and you still get to
Right.
draw a lot of cards to find your answer to it. So it kind of makes
Well,
sense that Ben is choosing to put more pressure on first instead of playing the Harsh Mentor, even though tapping out is very scary into a potential Nadu.
oh, Ben's face. I love it. Look at this saying, what's happening here? Specifically, Burrows and Forge Tender?
Oh, I love this. bestows Burrington Forge Tender.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? I can make infinite Baratin Forge Tenders? Well, not
Well,
infinite, I guess. It does
yeah.
cost mana. But still. Yeah, Ben, I feel you, buddy.
And that right there is the answer to Harsh Mentor. You can prevent all of the damage that Harsh Mentor is going to do to you that turn by sacking a Forge Tender. It does cost 2 life because it does, sacking a Forge Tender itself does trigger the Mentor, but
Right.
definitely worth it if you're going to activate Shuko 6 million times afterwards.
All right. And back over to Ben, who has the Harsh Mentor in hand, as we know. Is playing the cards a little bit close, has a beautiful planes from I think one of those secret layers. Oh, and here's Goblin Bombardment. Oh, that's okay. This is I'll sack the cat to a Johnny.
Is doing what
Cannot ping the Baratin Forge Tender. It does have protection from red.
Ajani's doing, the Ajani thing with bombardment, but it looks a lot less impressive when there aren't also a bunch of other creatures in play, right? And only
Right.
dealing 1 damage, like that's pretty good, and it's going to be somewhat hard to attack down this Ajani without giving up your Forge Tender because there's a cat in the way now. But Ren also looks like, is he on 2 cards left?
He's on 2 cards left, yeah. And Richard's gonna go get a second Shuko, backup Shuko. This is so interesting. I mean, there's been no Nadu yet, right? Like no Nadu in sight. We don't know if Richard has a cord or some way of getting the Nadu, but just this interaction between the Barrett and Forge and it just shows you like how many layers deep the players are going.
Yeah, Springheart Nantuko, surprisingly like complex card, honestly. Like you think like, oh, it's just in the Nadu deck as like, you make a bunch of 1/1s for core and you make a bunch of 1/1s for your combo, but also like you can do all of these tricky things with it in the mid game when you don't have access to combo. And I assume paying here after like playing a fetch, which could theoretically fetch blue, means that Richard in fact does not have a Nadu in hand. Otherwise, he would presumably be slamming that on the table.
Yeah, it's the copied Barrett and Forge Tender. This might be a hard lock for Richard Neal.
Yeah, I mean, eventually Ben can probably get out from it by just playing more things to the board, but Richard does have the ability to like every turn blank some red damage.
So interesting. I mean, okay, I know everyone hates Nadu, it's boring, blah blah blah, too powerful, etc. Ban the bird, but also, come on, this is sweet. There's some sweet stuff going on here. What do we have now? There is the Harsh Mentor.
Gonna fetch in response to avoid the 2 damage.
Okay. And Richard gets to pay, I assume.
Yeah, I assume what you want to do is like fetch Breeding Pool, shock it in, and pay. Actually, it looks like it's Surveil Land instead. That also makes sense. Maybe you don't need another Forge Tender. You just want to find your Nadu at this point.
I think maybe we're just like going a little bit ham with the like we're gonna go a bit nuts for the Forge Tender thing, but Richard knows what's up. Like Richard's like, yeah, I'm just gonna do the right thing. Find my trying to look for it. Leaves the card on top.
Well, my guess, of course, is a Nadu of some form.
And what is that a galvanic? I think it might be galvanic discharge in Ben's hand. Not 100% on that.
Yeah, I mean, these Forge Tenders, those prevent galvanic discharges. And also, there's no energy, so that Gal can't even kill Nadu at this point, I think.
Right. Yeah, you're correct. Because Ben had to quote unquote use that that one energy from either hub on the wall of roots earlier on.
Oh, I
Then
guess I guess you can kill an Adu with Galvanic Discharge because you can sacrifice one of your creatures to Goblin Bombardment to target it for one ping first. But that's really painful.
yeah, but then there's the Burrowton Forge Tender, right? Like,
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't getting through the Forge Tender anyway. Okay, do you have it? Says Ben. What have you got, Richard? Surveil that on top. Has a quick look.
Can't imagine you surveil anything that's not a Nadu. That is a Nadu.
That's definitely a Nadu. And it's a Haywire Might, by the way, for the Goblin Bombardment.
Yeah, but I assume you just play the Nadu and start Naduing after. I guess you need to Forge 10 the Harsh Mentor first.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you take 2. Richard down to 9. Nothing Ben can do about that. Here's Nadu. Richard
Yes. So
is
with
Jason, can I ask you a question? A very technical question. Is this not doing it?
This is not doing it. I have a great story to tell. So my favorite, you know the 012 piece of paper that we've seen people using for the combo?
Yeah, the
My
conveyor belt.
favorite version of that that I saw at this was at TG Baltimore. I was judging like a couple weeks ago. They had a version of that where under the number 0 they put nah didn't. Under the number 1 they put not doing, and
Oh my
under the number
god.
2 they put not done. It
Oh
was
my
so
god.
good.
I love it. I love it. That's the best thing. I love it.
Yeah,
Okay.
here. Okay, that chord really seals things up. Like you can already chord for, a second Spring Heart here potentially. Oh, but it looks like
Wow, Ben has a
this Scalp
response.
is gonna happen.
Yeah, I think so, right? Because Gal on Nadu, and then yeah, trigger. There's a Nadu trigger from the Galv Tower to
No,
it,
the Nadia is
right?
already triggered from the Shuko. So I think what Richard should do here is maybe blank the no. Okay, so
Wait, can you
I see what's
blank the
happening here.
Galv?
So if you blank the Galv, what that lets Ben do is then use bombardment to kill the Nantuko that has now fallen off and become a creature.
Oh,
So this is actually pretty smart,
wow.
and Richard could have like avoided a bit of this by playing the fetch first, because then you can just then you just have more insects, right? Like the problem here
Right,
is like killing this Nantuko uh takes away the ability to make insects. So it
right.
looks like now instead they're gonna fight over this Nadu.
Okay.
Oh,
And
and
Nadu is down. It's not done.
interesting. Richard just letting it go completely.
Well, he has a
Maybe
chord.
yeah. I guess the reasoning is like, oh, I could fight over all of this, but also I could just hoard for Nadu again next turn. What are you gonna do about that?
Right. Interesting. I just so like I was super expecting this, a huge fight the over this bombardment. But here comes the second another copy of the Forge Tender. Yeah, now it has pro red. It can that's amazing. The Burden Forge Tender plus Shuko plus Nantuko is gonna take down a Johnny.
Now, so Richard's now at 9. Needs to activate a 4 next turn again to blank the mentor, but Ben has no more cards.
Yeah, I think it was just it seems like it was just a land drawn, and yeah, Ben's just gonna put Gigantha in hand.
If it's just a land, I don't think Ben has any way of beating this chord in Richard's hand.
I think it was basic planes. I mean, he's gonna represent it, but let's see. Let's follow as Richard untaps. This is game number 3 of round number 7 between these two players. Both of them at 6-0, both very accomplished. And Richard already making quite a lot of inspired plays, let's say, with this Nardu deck. And yeah, there we go. Sack the copy of the Bone Forge Tender. Lock down the Harsh Mentor. And really, it
Turning it
looks like
over.
Richard's gonna try and go off with
Yeah.
Nardu this time.
And again, it shouldn't be too hard, especially now that like there's Ben has even fewer resources to work with. I assume the Nadu this time will be uninterrupted and will become Nadan.
the the bird hits the battlefield. And it just doesn't matter at this point, right? Like, Richard can just start going.
Yeah, Ben has to. Ben's only hope at this point is that like maybe Richard fizzles completely somehow. Like top like I don't know, a million cards or none of which are lands, but that already isn't the case.
Right.
And then like if Ben gets to untap, maybe could draw a
Oh,
Flayed, and there's the handshake.
yeah. Ben's like, you know what? I'm already into day 2. Let's wrap this one up. Richard Neal, 7-0 after round number 7. Great stuff here from one of our Bant Nardu players, really showing us how it's done and playing creatively, which we love to see here in the feature match area, Jason.
Indeed.
And as for his opponent, Ben did a great job, tried to get through it, couldn't beat the Barton Forge Tender. We are going to go away for a break. That's it from round number 7. And stay tuned because the final round of Swiss is coming up right after these messages.